So I mentioned, Mr. Secretary, the mood the last weekend in Munich as being pretty grim, and one theme, sometimes stated but often unstated, was a concern about what Donald Trump's election again as president might mean. We have a question from a member of our audience, Eric Povel from Belgium, who asks, will a second Trump term mean the end of NATO? What do you think?
Well, you hear different things from different elements of the former president's camp. Some that this is all about pressure on the Europeans, on NATO members to do more for their own defense, and less about actually walking away from the alliance. I think nobody actually knows right now what a reelected President Trump would do with respect to NATO. NATO's made some pretty significant strides in recent years in terms of additional resources for security and defense. When I was secretary, there were, I think, 5 countries that met the 2% threshold of GDP for defense. There are now 18 of 32 by the end of this year, and most of the countries in the alliance are headed in the right direction. Part of the reason is Putin's invasion of Ukraine, but the other reason is, and it goes back several years, has less to do with our prospective election than it does with previous elections, and that is questions in Europe, and I would say among all of our allies and friends, about whether the United States is still prepared to accept the responsibilities and the burdens of global leadership. And most of our allies and friends are hedging. They are building up their own defenses because they're not sure whether the United States is going to be there for them in the event of a future threat from Russia or somebody else. I think that the challenge that they face is how whether Trump is a one-off or whether Biden is a one-off. And it's that unpredictability about the future of America's role in the world that is causing this hedging to take place. One of the points I like to make is that, the leaders of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Israel, there have been more visits to Beijing and Moscow by the leaders of those 3 countries in the last 3 years than there have been to Washington, D.C. So the rest of the world is not quite sure where America is headed, regardless of who is president. And they're all hedging because they don't know. And this is a very real concern for our long-term vital interests, our long-term strategic interests. Because if they can't count on us, we can't count on them.